And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. That was brilliant. It was a fantastic move because we have a lot more for you. Why do we have a lot more? Because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And our guest today, you guessed it, is a podcaster. You cracked our code, folks. Way to go. This is the place where we all come together to raise each other up, and this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing and introduce our guest today. My goodness, this is going to take me a minute, so let me take a breath. All right, here we go. All right, host of the Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose podcast, author of several books, including In Faith I Thrive, Finding Joy Through God's Plan, and we're going to tell you about some other ones here. Three-time best-selling author, keynote speaker, spiritual transformation coach, part of the John Maxwell team, and warrior of light and faith. Please welcome Sylvia Worsham to the show. Sylvia, how you doing?
My goodness, what an introduction. I'm like full of light and love for you, and I don't even know you yet.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. That's what we're going for, actually. Light and I like that a lot. Light and faith is what we aim for here at the show. So I think you're ahead of the game. Sylvia, we have a ton that we can talk about and a lot of different areas we can go into. Before we do all that, why don't you just give everybody an idea of who is Sylvia Worsham, what are you about, and what brings you here?
Well, I'm of Mexican descent. Most people would never know that about me. Worsham is my married name. My maiden name is Villalobos. I grew up in South Texas. My first language is not English, it's Spanish. And I grew up in a Mexican household. Both parents came from Mexico. My father's from Monterrey. My mom's from Mexico City. I'm the oldest of three kids, highly educated. My father was a surgeon, fought in Vietnam. And we just grew up in a very high achieving, success driven household. And so it was no question I was going to land in corporate America or in a higher education. My brother and sister are both doctors. I was the frustrating kid for my father because of the three of them, I was the most disciplined and most like him, super high achiever. And so it frustrated him to no end that I did not become a doctor or a lawyer, but I'm just a different kind of person. I just didn't fit in that mold and in that success mold that he had for himself. So I go to college, I get a degree in international relations and French. There's my third language. And
Wow.
he's like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." So of course, you know, a perfectionist is not going to accept that, someone that loves control and controlling their circumstances. So of course there's going to be some friction there. And so starts my quest. I land in pharmaceutical sales. I start working for the giant Hoffman LaRoche, and then I move over to Pfizer, and I work in this environment for about almost 18 years, right?
Wow.
And but somewhere in the middle of all this, I get married, I have a child, and my first husband asks for a divorce, and I start my journey in faith because I turned away from God for a second. For 10 years, I get caught up in the hypocrisy experienced in the Catholic Church, specifically in my home with my husband, and I turn away from God because I think that's God doing that. And it's not God at all. It's the hypocrisy of people, of flawed human beings. Nonetheless, he asked for a divorce, and now I'm a single mom with a little boy. And I have a lot of responsibilities and I just accepted a promotion with Pfizer and had been put with a lot of pressure on me to perform, right? I had taken over an underperforming territory and their expectations were high. They said in 6 months you need to turn this thing around or you're out of a job. So you imagine the pressure of like a divorce, a dark chapter, and then on top of that, your dream comes true, finally getting promoted after being denied 4 different times before, just never giving up. And God is on my side. And God says, "You know what? This is the desire I'm going to place in your heart. You're going to be number one in the region, number two in the country. And I'm going to help you make that happen." I just thought he was insane. I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, this is not, how is this going to work?" And, but I believe him and I trust him. And I start that journey of faith with him. And lo and behold, 9 months later, I'm standing in front of 300 of my Pfizer peers in the region. I'm number one saleswoman in the region and number one saleswoman in the country. There was a guy in front of me, so that's why I say that very specifically. So the number one guy, Draper Hall, he was in Florida and I was in Texas. And then I, become a single mom and I'm in that singlehood and I meet my second husband. And one day he invites my little boy and I to go to Easter weekend for a crawfish boil. He's from Louisiana. And being the good Mexican girl, I didn't want to get pregnant. So I restart taking birth control pills. And within weeks, I started having pain because there's a little lovely fine print that after the age of 35, your risk almost quadruples with pulmonary embolisms and
Wow.
Budd-Chiari syndrome and all these things that are very deadly. And I had taken it safely for many years. And so I didn't think anything of it. And coming from the medical world and from the pharmaceutical world of all things, I mean, the irony here, I think God has a really sense of humor. Like for those that he wants to wake up because I'm his stubborn child that doesn't listen to his promptings
Yeah.
and continues on looking for my answers outside of myself instead of letting him guide me. You're like, okay, great. I'm going to use your choice. Lovely. We're going to have to wake you up here. And so the day before I'm scheduled to fly out to Houston, Texas, of all things, the medical center of Texas, the pain gets worse. And my mother's intuition kicks in and she says, I think you need to consult with your brother or somebody. You don't look right. And I'm so in love and I really want this to work out. So I give him a call and he's rounding in the hospital. It's typical. And typical medical families will understand when I'm saying this. They don't really take you seriously as a patient. And so he was rounding, so he's busy. And I kind of give him the symptoms and he's like, you're fine. It's probably this. Take this over the counter stuff. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I think you're just being dramatic. So I took the flight. So this is interesting because I already have pulmonary embolisms inside my body. And I take a flight, and that is deadly. That's a deadly choice. Obviously, I've survived this because I wouldn't be in front of you.
Right.
So I land, and my boyfriend at the time says, you know what? I think we should spend the night. The original plan was to drive overnight to Louisiana from Houston. So that's a good 7-hour drive. That would have been another deadly choice. So we spend the night, and at 3 a.m., Rory, I get jolted out of bed. I mean, seriously, jolted. The pain it's awful. It felt like 50 knives were piercing my chest. It was
Mm.
the most horrible feeling in the world. And I remember thinking, man, my brother wasn't kidding. This is really painful. That's what goes through my mind. But in that moment of sheer terror and just pain, a prompting comes through very clearly. Lean forward and you'll be able to breathe. And I'm in that space in my relationship with God. I need to stay obedient. So I just leaned forward. And I did. I was able to take deeper breaths. Well, that decision, that obedience saved my life because the next day when I get seen and they take a scan of my lungs, the critical care pulmonologist who comes into the room says, you leaning forward saved your life. You sitting up saved your life. That pain you felt, those were 2 blood clots going through your heart that landed in your left lung. They likely would have stopped your heart. And you would have died, and your little boy would have woken up to a dead mom next to him.
Wow.
So miracle one, right?
Yeah.
Is that prompting. And we, the whole weekend, God gives me 2 additional miracles within 72 hours. So it's a wake-up call. And so now I shift my lens from, okay, people die from one. I had multiple and an 80% chance of dying because I had a blood clot that was in my vena cava, which is the main vein that takes blood out of your main organs. It was putting pressure on my liver. I was about to go into acute liver failure. So I'm facing this horrible situation, but I have surrendered to God and to his will in those moments. And the value of surrender is that then your relationship with him changes and shifts. And now instead of just believing in him and periodically listening to him, now it's an everyday thing of like, okay, you obviously want me here for a very powerful reason. What is that reason? And I wish to tell people that it was an immediate change. It doesn't happen that way because the programming of our mind as a certified coach, it takes years because we tend to want to do things our way, always. And to release control, which you and I talked about prior to this interview, that's an illusion of the mind. That is not something that we have. We don't really have control. COVID kind of taught us that. I mean, we had zero control when that hit. So it's an illusion that God wants to chisel out of me, and He wants to chisel other elements that have just built up over the years with the trauma and the programming and the modeling, everything that we experience are these layers that God now wants to just chisel away and kind of remind me of who He created me to be and what my true light was all about. And so then I retire from medicine. After I lose a baby, I get married, I move to Austin, and um, I become a stay-at-home parent, which is a huge shocker because I come from a high-achieving background, and I had tied my worth to the amount of money I was making and my significance to all of that. And God wants to shift all of that, see? And I don't find all this out until He prompts me to write my book in 2020, Journey to Me. And in that prompting, there was more at work there because as I told you guys at the beginning, my father and I had a lot of friction. And he's using this opportunity for me to heal those parts of me because he sees the future, right? He knows my father's going to die in 4 years later. And he knows my heart, and he knows that I won't be able to take that hit without first healing that part and actually becoming my dad's friend the last 4 years of his life. So that's what leads me to become an author and certified coach. There was just major promptings that occurred throughout the journey. And I just learned to be obedient. And the podcast came because he had sent a messenger in a national mastermind I participated in 2023. Shelly Vernon, she said, I think it's time for you to do a podcast. I'm like, my father's dying. I don't think I have the bandwidth for this, you know? And she's like, Sylvia, you have been creating for a long time. You're a great storyteller. You ask amazing questions. I mean, all that skill set, you learned all that from your pharmaceutical days. You had to ask questions of doctors and then you would shut up and listen. That's how you made your sales, right? And she's like, and I said, well, yes. He goes, well, that's in essence a podcaster. That's what they do. They ask questions and they dive deeper and they listen intently and they guide people towards, you know, the discussion moving forward. So I think this is the next step. And so I took the plunge and it was scary. It was scary because it's a whole new medium. You're totally not understanding what you're doing. I hired a team and everything, but nothing is better, in my opinion, than you learning the ropes on your own too, instead of hiring somebody because you don't know if they're authentically aligned to you or not. And sometimes they can do it for you very, very well, and sometimes they can not be good influences, right? And they can guide your show in ways that God never intended. And here you go, you have to start all over again. But luckily, something happened and they had to pull off. And then my husband, Donnie, he's like, Sylvia, you're an intelligent woman. I mean, look at where you came from. You handled $1 million accounts for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. You were their top saleswoman. You're not stupid. You can figure these stuff out. I mean, you figured really hard stuff out. Editing a video is not going to take you that long. You don't need to, you can do this. And so he empowered me to like do it on my own. And these situations kind of forced me to. And this is all as my father's dying. And so when he finally graduated into heaven on Father's Day of last year, I was in the process. I had just launched my podcast, Release Out, Reveal Purpose, and I was about to release the second edition, In Faith I Thrive, Finding Joy Through God's Master Plan, in September. So you can imagine having that major loss and having these two major projects. I think God does this purposely for someone like me who is internally motivated and really my faith is so strong in me that in that journey journey, I learned to daily surrender to God my grief, my anticipatory grief, because I knew my father was dying. And so by the time my father graduated into heaven, because to me it's a graduation of sorts, I was at peace. And the last 4 years of my father's life were the best. I was his friend. I had sold Viagra to the guy. So he'd been my client. I had been his patient. He had done the lithotripsy on me many years before, kidney stones. So I had worked for him in his medical office. He had been my dad, but we had never been friends. And God provided that for me in the writing and the healing of both the podcast and the book. So that's who I am. Sorry it took so long. I'm sure you have tons of questions.
I mean, wow. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss.
No,
I mean,
but
yeah, absolutely. And you said that he passed on Father's Day.
yes.
That's something. I mean, that's quite a story right there.
Yeah. We're going to remember him anyways. Might as well be on Father's Day, you know? I
You know,
mean, and my mother, my aunt who I adored, um, who would have been, she was my backup mom because she was my mom's younger sister by 10 years. She passed away on January 1st of the same year. So I turned to God after my dad passed away on Father's Day and I said, can we just avoid holidays from this point on? Because I'm kind of running out of holidays. You know, like, can we not do Christmas or anything major like that? Just leave me a couple of holidays, please. Okay.
well, you're all a bunch of such high performers that you guys had to be efficient about it. I mean, your dad's this type A. He's like, you're not going to take time out of work to celebrate me twice. We'll just do it all on the same day.
And
Right?
the high achiever of my aunt, she was world renowned psychologist in Mexico City.
Hmm.
And you would never know it. Like you saw her, she looked like olive oil from Popeye. She was tiny, man, and so humble and so kind. And
Well,
you would have never pegged her for that. But she was probably super efficient as well.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
how are you faring? I mean, after that sort of a, medical issue for you, I mean, that's the type of thing that doesn't go away overnight for sure. I've had a couple myself, so I kind of know whereof I speak.
Well, it turned out to be caused by birth control pills. So
Hmm.
I'm not able to take hormonal therapy, and I'm 50. I'm about to turn 51 on August 7th. And so I really had to understand the holistic approach to this early on. So
Okay.
acupuncture, vitamins, you name it, meditation,
Right.
prayer, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the gift that keeps on giving type of thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So no, I understand that. All right. The book In Faith I Thrive, Finding Joy Through God's Plan. That in terms of when you wrote that book, I get, everything that was going on with your books. Who were you writing the books sort of to and for?
Okay. That's a really good question to my light bringers. And that's why when I start my podcast, I was at Hey Light Bringers. Here's why. The light bringers, usually I work with women because women have a tendency to be attracted to the stories that I tell. But I find that guys are also being attracted to some of the stories I'm telling. So I'm really working with people between the ages of like 30 to about 60. And the reason why I picked these generations is that in midlife is when you really start to consider and ponder a second act, because it's where sometimes these big crossroads are occurring, and that's when spiritual awakenings are happening. And because I'm a spiritual transformative coach, I'm basically guiding you out of that dark place into your light, into the present moment, into your authentic light, the person that God created you to be before the layers you piled on there. And the layers are the traumas, and we all have them, the experiences, good, bad, ugly, the modeling. All of these things are layers that cover up that beautiful light, your soul's direction, your soul's purpose. You cannot see it because fear is so powerful in our minds. that it will convince us, if we allow it, to stay stuck in a cycle of doubt. That's why my podcast is called Release Doubt, because doubt is what I found when I was interviewing both men and women for my books. What is your biggest fear when change is present in your life? And the fear of the unknown. That's what paralyzes us. And that's going to be true across the board, men, women, doesn't matter. Where I come in is I want them to strengthen their relationship with God. So I share vulnerably my story and In Faith I Thrive of how I actually turned away from God, how I actually experienced religion trauma to a degree, right? So they can relate to that. I too was angry with God. I too experienced all these feelings that you're experiencing, but there is light because in the darkest of chapters, he's always there. He's just waiting for you to invite him. And when you feel that pull in your soul, and you do, we have conditioned our minds and our hearts to tune certain things out. I know I did. And I would put it off, but the pull is so strong. It's the thought that just won't leave you alone. It's like a relentless prompting. And that prompting was reach out to me. I'm right here. I can guide you out of here. And so in those midlife crises, it's really a midlife invitation from God to shift your lens into the light that you were created to be. So I guide them out of fear, right? Out of their mind, their ego, because the ego is not your enemy. The ego is your self-image. And so if that self-image is comprised of belief systems that limit your amazing capacity as a human being, that's what needs to shift. And that's an easy thing. It's an easy shift when you invite God into the mix. I bring you into the authentic space because in the United States, and it's not in Europe, it's here in the States, we are conditioned to achieve. Everything's outside of you. All your answers are there. And that's not the case. The answers are inside of you. That's why intuition is so important. It's to turn inward for those answers. Your joy and your happiness are within you because Christ is within you. And when you come into the present moment and you start to discover who you really are, you start to understand what your value systems are. You take yourself out on dates. Nobody else is allowed. You start to reconnect with who you really were created to be. And then from that space, then you can really thrive in God's sovereignty. Because before then, fear will always take over. And that's where the enemy can also come in. You have certain strongholds, generational trauma that you've passed on that you're carrying that's not yours. I carried this idea and this belief that I had to sacrifice something in order to have it all. And just because I'm a woman, because that was the generational belief system from the Mexican household, from the grandmothers to the mothers, and it just keeps going. So somebody has to break those cycles. So the book helps you break those cycles and invite God in and take you out of fear into joy and into full surrender to your divine purpose. And that's who I guide.
So does it just describe it? Is it educational in that format, or is it like actionable steps, that type of thing?
It's storytelling. And you get your own aha moments as you read because you find yourself in the stories. And at the end of each chapter, and this was the part that I just started laughing at God because I was like, are you crazy? I don't know scripture. The first go around, I was like, I don't even know the Bible. How am I supposed to? Because as Catholics, they don't teach you the Bible. They teach you the religion. They teach you how to, the priest, going through the priest. I'm like, I don't want to go through the priest. I want to go directly to God. Why do I have to go through somebody? So I disagree with that from the beginning. And like my husband Donnie says, because he was Pentecostal growing up, he's like, I'm watching a priest wash dishes on the altar. Come on. Is that really what you want me to learn about? So the first go around and journey to me, there was a lot more action steps. I shared with you the formula that God wanted me to share with everybody. And it was my journey of my own 5 cycles of transformation And so the 5 cycles are this. I'll share it here. And this also is in Faith I Thrive, because this is the blueprint. So you first have the turning point, the crossroads, right? And in this stage, you're gonna be excited to make a change, or you can be terrified. You are gonna want to recruit a loving community to be part of it. You want your light bringers around you. You don't want light takers. You don't want people that don't believe in your capacity, amazing capacity as a human being. You also want to invite God in, because your emotions are going to be really high. And you're going to start making irrational decisions that may actually delay your joy. So on the spiritual side, you want to invite him. Then within like weeks, you're going to feel a pull in your heart to do something, and it's going to come out of your comfort zone. You're not going to like it at times. It was like when he put the desire in my heart to be number one, I was like, are you crazy? This thing is dead last in the region. How am I going to do this with a divorce, and a kid and everything else that goes with that? And he's like, the how, you leave it to me, is what he told me. You stay obedient to what I'm telling you to do, because I'm preparing you for what's coming. Like, so he saw that my husband was going to really fight me in the divorce, monetarily, financially. And so this put me in a really prime position to earn the highest paid bonus ever at Pfizer was to me that year. Like, in all the years in that division, I earned the highest bonus pay. And it helped me offset all the fights, financial fights that were occurring in the divorce. So this is why it's important to listen to God and to just stay obedient. So he's going to put a desire in your heart. So just be ready for it. That's second step, right? But I'd say about a month into this change, your ego is going to step in, your programming. And so the ego identity is going to start making you doubt your capacity. In this stage, it's really important that you do not steer away from God, that you stay super close to him. And your mind will want to take you away, and you will fall back into old habits and patterns of behavior. So be very aware. So awareness is key, and just recruit intuition, Holy Spirit, whoever it is that you belong, that you believe in. And on the emotional side of things, you're going to be in darkness, basically. So realize that. Do things physically, emotionally, mentally to ground you, to get you out of there. So whatever that looks like, a lot of the tips I share with people is do something on purpose that brings you to your present moment every day. So for me, it's dancing, putting on music, like worship music, or even dancing, because I'm Mexican, man. It's almost a prerequisite to know how to merengue dance. So I put that on to just kind of like get out of there. But I do invite him every day into my world. And I have coffee chats with God at 5 a.m. So that's my thing that always brings me back to present and center. And and keep going on the changes that you want to make in your life. So in my case, with that desire, it was like I kept going to the hospitals, and even though they said no to me and said no, I just kept doing it every day on purpose, whether I felt like it or not. When I was writing my book, there were days I didn't want to write. I did it anyways, because consistency, we know in coaching, is what really gets you towards your goal. It's not super attractive. It's called consistency and intentionality. So you just continue doing that. Eventually, when you continue doing and breaking your mind's will, and you incorporate your soul in God's supernatural strength, you will get to a point that I call emergence. You start emerging out of that darkness. And that's where you start gaining momentum. You start seeing some results. So even if the changes, like say health-wise, you start losing some weight, you start feeling better, more energy, you start really stepping into your purpose. That gives you more momentum forward. And that's where you just have to continue the path. And the last cycle of transformation is your soul identity. That's the identity that you will be from this point on. You will be the identity of the woman and the man that God created you to be. And you're going to step into that light unapologetically and easily, really, because now you realize who you are in Christ. you realize that you are unstoppable because he is with you. And there is nothing God cannot do for you. And so that's what how In Faith I Thrive is kind of like developed to be in response to your original question.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. The Now, in terms of the podcast, Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose, that seems to have a little bit of a different, and not to restate, but purpose than the books do.
To a degree, because now I'm sharing other people's light
Hmm.
on the show. So I'm also sharing with others. I'm not going to have all the dark chapters that everybody on earth has. So I got to bring in people that have experienced these things and everybody's wisdom. We're all interconnected, Rory, as you and I know very well, but not everybody does. You have something in you that I need, and I have something in me that you need. And God knows that. And he connects us. And we don't understand it initially because if you're not faith-based, it kind of looks random, but it's never random,
Yeah.
ever. There's always a purpose, and his will is always behind the scenes, working. His hand is in everything. And it wasn't until I actually reflected back in my journey that I saw that. So Release Doubt does take you on that journey, spiritual journey, into purpose, because we all have purpose to fulfill on this earth. That is life's journey. This is right before we graduate into heaven. We all come with a very powerful purpose. Some of us discover it, others don't. Some of us, it's like right there, right in front of you, and still don't see it. They need an awakening of sorts. And that's what I needed in 2012. So he obviously he knew how to wake me up. So that's what Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose does. It's in full alignment, really, to the book, but it's done through other people's stories.
Nice. Nice. Let's talk about the podcast for just a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, hey, it is the Podcaster Nation. I probably should, stay on theme just a smidge. But the podcast itself, I had a chance to listen to a couple of your episodes. You do interviews and you do solo episodes.
Yeah.
And yeah, the solo episodes are very good, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I
Yeah, I
appreciate that.
really enjoyed some of those. You have a great voice for it. It becomes very captivating, and I'm like sort of just sitting here like totally into it, not moving, listening to it. I'm going,
Well,
wow,
that's good.
that's really good. Holy cow. Okay. But all that aside, the how do you decide who you're bringing on and kind of for what purpose? Is it more motivational? Is it more? I know you said to like bring their light and that type of thing, but is there a particular topic you try and stay within, or is it just anybody with a good story that has the right kind of feel? How do you kind of make those decisions? Because you have a very eclectic group of people that came on there.
I did. Because here's long ago, God said, this is your mission too. Aside from like being a light bringer, light warrior, is my sheep are lost. Some have lost me. They are finding me in other disciplines. I don't want you to judge them. I don't want you to push them down. I want you to bring them back to me. And in order to do that, you're going to have to understand them and be very loving and kind. And you're going to need to learn these disciplines like chakras and all this energy work and tarot reading and all these things that astrology that a lot of people kind of view they're looking for him. They're trying to seek that intuition, right? And so I took that as okay. So I guess I'm out there bringing their light into the world. But in doing so, what I have found in some of these interviews is when I talk about my faith from the space I'm speaking on, from my experience with him, it starts to shift something in them. Because I've heard them later say, I really appreciated you being that way because Christians normally are not like that. And I said, I know. I've encountered quite a few myself. So I I'm a Christ follower. I am not religious. I'm faith-based, and I say that very specifically. And I'm here to love you the way he loves you and to be a safe space for you to shine your light, but know that that he is present in your life. He's always been there. He's never abandoned you. And and so that's part of it. The other part is I consult with God a lot. And sometimes when I read the messages, because what I do on Podmatch is I go on there and I read their introduction to me. If it sounds too salesy, I don't even consider it because it's not about selling your product. It's about shining your light and showing others how to step into their light. And if I get any indication that you're using this as any other platform, I just don't even consider it. I And then I look at the reviews as well, because reviews kind of shine a light on the character of a person, the energy.
Sure.
And I can pick up very, very quickly. Now, sometimes I've interviewed people, and initially on paper, they look beautiful and they say all the right things. But then when I meet them, I have a very particular set of skills. It's probably why I was so lethal at Pfizer. Okay. I can sense energy shifts in people. I can sense when they're lying to me, like very, very quickly. And when they're using this platform to share a message that is not in alignment to God, I won't even air it because that is in complete contradiction to who he is. And as light warrior of faith, my responsibility and duty is to him first, to shed his character and his love on the world, because people have put him in a box that is not him at all. And so I am very, very careful who I air, not because I'm only promoting certain things. You've seen the eclectic side of things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's it's that I make sure that his character is reflected. Like I'll give you an example. One of the interviews I conducted recently, a girl who had been raised by a narcissistic mom, she called, instead of the inner critic, called it the inner narcissist. And I was like, narcissism is not a term you want to be using broadly like that, you know? And when we were talking about forgiveness, she kept saying, well, I shouldn't be pushed to forgive. They were shaming me to forgive my mother. I said, but forgiveness is really about giving you freedom.
Right.
You know, God forgave us, even though we didn't deserve it. He still forgave us. We were sinners. We sin against him every single day when we break his rules. He has his his expectations are way higher than ours. He's perfect. We're not. And she thought that was completely wrong, you know. And I told myself that intuitively I knew that was not an interview I wanted to air. And so I've completely X'd that one out.
Mm.
I had a good time with her and everything, but I'm very careful with not tainting his character and not giving people the wrong impression of this, because when we go through trauma, the way forward in healing, and I've worked with therapists before, is forgiveness. You're not saying that the person is right for hurting you or for being
Right.
abusive. You're not saying that at all. You are releasing yourself from the cage of bitterness so that you can move forward in your healing journey
Nice.
and be a better person. You can't do that carrying all this contradiction inside of you. So,
Well, I love all of that, and I was picking up a lot of that, and so I really am glad that you gave us that answer. I was hearing a lot of energy, chakra, that sort of vibe from what you were talking about. The light bringer phrasing and that type of thing, and then hearing the faith phrasing, and so it sounds like you're well, like you said, you're looking for people who are looking for him, but then you're going out and meeting them where they are,
mhm.
and that's one of the easiest ways to get to folks. So, I mean, I applaud you for the approach on what you're doing, and I love the way you do the podcast because everybody who's there, like I said, it's an eclectic group, and that's a compliment. It's not that everybody fits into some box and is in some line, and everybody is this. You bring in a lot of folks, but they all have They all have a message that is, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Purposeful?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a reason because here's the thing, like whoever listens to it, we don't know what God knows. We don't see what he sees.
Mhm.
We just know that he put this person in front of me for a reason. There's something they're going to say that when that person listens to it, whenever this thing gets scheduled out, that they have to hear in that moment to either stop themselves from killing themselves, which it has happened, just so we're clear. There were things that were coming out of my mouth that were not mine. There were his because I channel the Holy Spirit. I allow him to speak through me. There's times I've said things that came out of my mouth that were not mine. And I didn't even know where they came from. And I just allow my okay, I guess you have something to say. Go
There you
ahead.
go. Exactly. Use me. I understand. All right. Well, I love what you're doing, and I love the way that you're doing it. Let me ask you a couple nuts and bolts questions. You've been doing this for a while. How many episodes have you got out?
100?
Okay. I didn't count them, but I was like, all right, it's a
I
lot.
think 100 this week. So what day is today? Monday? I don't even know what day I'm on, but because I have so many people in front of me. So Thursday will be the 100th episode.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank
That's a
you.
huge milestone for a podcast. So, all right, that's wonderful. What do you, I mean, you've been doing it for a while. What do you do to promote the podcast? And how do you use your promotion for your podcast versus your promotion for your books versus just general promotion for yourself? How do you balance all those things? What promotes what?
I think they complement each other, so they both promote each other. In the back of the book, and on the bio, it says podcast hosts have released our reveal purpose. So whoever is buying the book will have that
Mhm.
as promotion. On released out reveal purpose, when it's appropriate, only when it's appropriate, do I um, inject some truths or some coaching from In Faith I Thrive, and I'll say it like that. So I find that they both kind of do that purpose. And when I share on social media sites, which I'm active on almost everything except X, I'm not a big fan of X or TikTok. I just don't do it. But I do Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and that's primarily where I live and breathe. And I just try to be very authentic. And I think when you're authentic, people want to follow you. They want to hear more of you. And my website really does a lot of promotion. When I direct people there, they can connect with me on my social media sites. And my podcast is directly connected to my webpage. And I have a podcast webpage that's separate, but I also wanted to connect it to my work. And that's how I do the cross promotion
Nice.
between the two. And then, of course, word of mouth, because people love my books and and my chapters and my writing. And so they'll just promote it. Sometimes it's just referrals. So,
That's the best way. I love that. Have you had a chance to? I mean, you've got the books, of course, which are a kind of monetization, and then you have your coaching, which is a monetization. Have you had a chance to monetize the podcast at all, just as the podcast? I didn't hear any ads or anything on there. So.
no, not yet. And I wanted to ask my good friend Rick Tacchini, who I just interviewed
Mhm.
for his book, his 11th book on significance. He was like, so you got to monetize that podcast. You're doing a lot of coaching there, dude. So I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you know what? And it's just one of those things that that I'm thinking about. I just haven't had the time. If you've seen just how busy I am,
Sure,
between everything that happened last year and everything launching, I didn't even do a proper launch for In Faith I Thrive because I was grieving so badly for my father's death.
sure.
And so I gave myself the grace and the time to just grieve. And I thought, well, when it turns 1 year old this year, I'll give it a big birthday party,
Nice.
a
Yeah.
big first year, and I could reintroduce it.
Yeah. No, good thinking. And you're right. I mean, when the outside world, hits you like that, sometimes you have to just give yourself some grace and take a breather. So,
Yeah.
good move. I usually try to fit in a corny question for everybody.
Oh,
So here,
knock
here,
yourself out.
here's my corny question for you. When it comes to doing the podcast, what is it about doing the podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing the podcast that you just absolutely despise the most?
Okay. Those are easy questions, by the way, so thank you.
All right, there you
Um,
go.
I love connecting with people. I love hearing their stories. I love empowering them to share their light with us. It lights me up on the inside. Love that. Love that. I despise having to do all the editing work. I love hearing the interview again. I laughed because I can actually enjoy the interview now. Because when you're interviewing, you're like having to be so focused. I have ADD, so if I don't focus on what people are saying, I'm going to forget. I have to keep repeating it as they're speaking, like the points that I want to highlight of what they say,
Mhm.
or just take notes as I'm doing it. But I don't want to turn my attention away from them
Sure.
because I want to connect with them, right? So the connection piece is my favorite, and the editing is what I'm still learning to do. But I'm having fun still. I don't really detest it. Because
Sure.
since I do a lot of gratitude journaling, I've learned to reframe all of that in my head. I used to detest doing laundry, and now I love it because I get to catch up on Netflix shows. So I do it. So I'm like, oh shit, my break. So why
It's the
not?
last thing in the world I expected to hear from you was Netflix binge watching. I love it. Very
Well,
honest.
now we're being efficient, okay?
That's right. Got to multitask. I mean, it's got to be what it's got to be. Okay. Since you are approaching 100 episodes, let me ask you this. What is your best piece of advice to podcasters out there who are listening to this right now and are going, man, 100 episodes, that's awesome. And they're just not quite where you are yet.
Just do it. Like seriously, do it consistently. Make a commitment. Your goal is this once a week because people want consistency, right?
Hmm.
They want to be able to tune in. Find what that vision is for that podcast, and it may shift. Be open to that because initially you'll have an idea and you think it's the best idea in the world. The truth is, it's not about you, it's about your listeners. It's about what impacts them, what moves them. So always be open to shift gears when need to. So that's really what I would say. Just stay consistent and stay open and curious to where the direction of that. But do stay consistently through that theme to begin with. Start off with something and be consistent with it. And when you get an inkling to change, because God is guiding you to change, there's a powerful reason behind that. Listen and shift. Because that's what happened to Rick. When I was interviewing him, he's had the 11th book came out of podcast interviews he did years ago when it was the Success Made to Last podcast. And he wrote his 11th book on significance, all for God's glory. It's called Truly Significant Conversations with Big Hearted People.
Hmm.
He has an interview he did with Ed Asner, the actor from long ago,
Oh,
the one
wow.
that played
Lou Grant and
um,
everybody else. Yeah.
yes, and Up, the voice of Up,
Hmm.
the grumpy old man. I can't think of the character's name, but he was on there, and I was listening to the podcast yesterday because I was reading that chapter, and he had the QR code to the interview in the book. What a great way to market. I thought that was genius. So I might as well share that here on your podcaster nation because that's one way to promote both elements, right? And
Yeah, for
market
sure.
both elements on there. Yeah.
Love it. And yeah, we'll promote anybody you want to promote on here. I mean, this is a wide open, this is the Wild West on the Podcaster Nation. So there's very few rules on this show. I love it. All right, listen, before I hit you with the last question, let's just make sure everybody knows how to reach you, websites and that kind of thing. I'll have everything in the show notes, of course, but in case to listen and they want to go check you out right now, best ways to reach you are
The best way is my webpage. Really, everything's
webpage.
connected on there. So it's www.sylvia, spelled SYLV as in Victor, IA, Worsham, WORSHAM.com. That's how
Perfect.
to find me.
All right, we'll have that in the show notes. All right. Final question as we kind of wrap things up here. And I appreciate everything that you brought today and just your attitude and your energy. I absolutely love it. Is there anything that I didn't ask you? Is there anything that we talked about and maybe you want to just double down on, remind everybody about, or maybe a parting thought for everybody, a last nugget or anything that you want to leave with folks as we sort of, drive off into the sunset here?
I'm going to end it the way I end my podcast, and that is to remind everybody of Matthew 5:14, to be the light because you are. You are an immense bright light in this world. And we need you. We need your light. We need your talents. We need your skill set. So if you've had a prompting from God to step into a change that is scaring you, don't be afraid. He has already equipped you with courage and strength, and it's his supernatural strength that will hold and sustain you through. So step in there with courage, faith, and love, and just be the light.
Love that. Great way for us to wrap things up. Sylvia Worsham, host of Release, Doubt, Reveal, Purpose podcast. Thank you so much for everything you brought today. And
Of
you've been
course.
absolutely amazing. And I just thoroughly enjoyed this. Bless you. I appreciate you being here.
Bless you too.
All right. Folks, that's been another fantastic episode of the Podcaster Nation. The reason we have such fantastic people come on here with these great messages is because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And as we showed again today, this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.